All right, so I have a budgeting template now, but how do I categorize everything? In this video, we're gonna go through two of the most popular budgeting frameworks that you can use to help organize all of your expenses and find out if you are on track or not. Hey, my name is Nick, and on this channel, we talk about the topics that I wish that we had learned in school. In this case, how to select budgeting frameworks when building your first budget. As always, there's timestamps below so that you can jump to the parts that are gonna be most beneficial to you the quickest, and as well as a link to a blog post that's gonna have all this detailed in a written format. If you find anything helpful in this video, I would super appreciate a like, or feel free to subscribe so that way you can stay up to date on any future videos that get released. By this time, you have selected a budgeting goal, what is the intention and things that you want to consider, as well as a budgeting template. Now we're going to focus on the framework. Now, when I talk about framework, what do I mean? So when you're thinking through the expenses, there's going to be six. There's going to be three categories that almost everything is going to fall into: needs, wants, and then your savings and investments. Needs. These are going to be the expenses in your life, such as rent, mortgage, like core groceries, transportation costs, minimum payments, things that you have to pay on a monthly basis in order to make sure that there's no delinquency that comes up. So an example, if you have a credit card bill with an outstanding minimum payment, you want to make sure you pay that because it has a direct impact on either your credit score or you're going to be collecting interest, things like that. So these are the things that are going to fall into your needs category. Wants. These are the joys in life. This could be travel, eating out, going out to the bars, anything that's like a fun optional activity that is not necessarily required in life, but is something that's definitely going to be like something you can maybe tailor back on in the future. The last category is going to be your savings and investments or debt payoff. This is anything that's kind of left over after you've budgeted what your need expenses are, what your want expenses are. This other bucket can go towards emergency funds, savings, or even accelerating your debt pay down so that you can get through some of that a little bit faster. So let's go into two of the popular frameworks that most people use. The first one is called the 50-30-20. Now, what this means is 50% of your budget will be allocated towards needs expenses. Remember, this is like your rent and your car insurance, things like that. 30% will be allocated towards your wants. This is like eating out, going to the movies, things like that. And then the last part is 20% is going to be allocated towards any of your investments or debt pay downs or savings or things like that. This is probably the most popular framework that most people are going to fall into, especially if you're, I don't know, I think personally under $200,000 a year, you're probably going to use this as your normal framework when balancing things through. There's of course some outliers that do exist when you're getting into this piece, but for the most part, this is where you're gonna, fall into everything. If you're following along in the personal budget tracker that I've put together, you can actually select this as an option framework and it'll populate all of the different categories based off that percentage so that you know whether or not you're technically over or under and by how much you're over or under for that specific category. The second framework, which again, this is for people maybe over the $200,000 a year range, is called the 50-40-10 budget rule. And it's the same categories where you're going to be looking at needs, wants, and savings, but they're going to be in a little different order. Hey, we'll get right back to the video in a quick second. I just want to let you know that any of the guides, tools, resumes that you see in this video or any of my other videos, I've put together in what I call the Trailblazers Foundation Kit, and it's free to anyone in my community. You can access it and have it emailed directly to you at nicholasayala.com/kit. All right, that's it. Back to the video. The 50% is still going to represent your living expenses. So these are, unchanged from the prior framework. But 40% is going to be allocated towards your savings and investments, and the 10% is going to be towards your wants. I'm not going to touch on this one too much beyond that. Most people will modify which categories they want to be a little bit heavier on. Once they're debt free, maybe once they're making a higher amount in salary, maybe once they have a little bit of cash flow coming in from other ways, things will change a little bit as you kind of progress through different life scenarios, I guess is the best way of putting it. All right, that's basically it. Remember, we want to keep this super, super simple. So we're just going to go through those two frameworks, select one of those frameworks, populate it in whatever budgeting template that you're using. Again, if you're using my budgeting template, just select that as your marker. And in the next piece, we're going to actually spend some time to populate that budgeting framework a little bit so that you two kind of know exactly where you're at and where you can make some modifications on things. See you in the next one.